Before we begin, candidate Anthony Lewis has asked me to say a few words on his behalf, which all of the other candidates are more than happy for me to do. As you may be aware, Anthony has aphasia, a speech and language disorder caused by a serious stroke 10 years ago. Anthony is taking a full part in the senatorial campaign, but his difficulties with language mean that the traditional hustings format of questions without notice is not practical for him, so he will not be answering questions tonight. Aphasia is a condition that affects communication, but not ability. He will be responding to questions online, on his Facebook page, and he will be holding a number of surgeries which are better formats for his particular disability. Anthony has asked me to thank you for your understanding. I will now call upon Moz Scott to address the meeting.
Monsieur Connétable, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a seasoned politician who has allowed the waste of huge sums of public money and the mismanagement of this island's limited resources. I'm a fresh face, an Oxford graduate, a former tax specialist and former partner and director of a major local law firm and trust company. It had over 800 employees. I became a leadership trainer, which has enabled me to help organisations change for the better using teamwork. In the last 2 years, I have worked voluntarily as chairman of the St Brellard's Bay Association. This has given me a deep understanding of the shortcomings of the island's planning regime in balancing the needs of affordable housing, tourism and environmental protection. My skills are easily transferable. As a qualified Jersey lawyer, I have studied the island's political constitution and scrutinised its laws. We have a divisive and dysfunctional style of government that has been over-reliant on civil servants for political leadership and indulgent or cronyism. This style of leadership needs to change now, to lay down the foundations for a brighter future and to embrace new opportunities. Even Brexit could offer ways of prospering in the right hands. If elected, I will strive to stop the waste of public money by having government work with the private and voluntary sector more efficiently, to redirect funds into the right places, not into further unnecessarily expensive bureaucracy. I'll work to support a diverse economy that uses our resources more efficiently, while better protecting the island's scenic beauty and heritage and maintaining its special identity. Most importantly, I will deliver propositions to reform the State's Assembly to improve its value for money. I will first work on a proposal to the Assembly that will aim to resolve the dysfunction between the Council of Ministers and scrutiny and improve the oversight by ministers of their departments by requiring ministers to act in think tanks, including scrutiny representatives and local experts. I'm standing as Senator because I wish to offer my skills, knowledge and experience for the benefit of all islanders. If elected, I will be good value for money. This is all I can deliver in the time allowed to speak. Please look at my online manifesto at www.votemoz.je to find out how, if elected, I will deliver much, much more to you. Jersey needs to believe in itself again. Your vote is an opportunity to help the island move forward in safe hands with fresh energy. Please consider me for one of your votes as Senator on the 16th of May to deliver the change we all need. Thank you.
Simon Bree.
Good evening, Monsieur le Connétable, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Simon Bree. I'm proud to be a Jerseyman and honoured to be a deputy for St Clement. I'm chairman of the Economic Affairs Scrutiny Panel, the Future Hospital Review Panel and the Machinery of Government Review Panel, and vice chairman of the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel. I've been working hard on your behalf to hold this government to account. There are major issues facing our island which will have a direct impact on the daily lives of every one of us. Unless we tackle these now, our quality of life and our island will change forever. Brexit is looming with its unknown impact on our economy. The finance industry is vital to our economy and continued prosperity. But we must diversify our economy and support farming, tourism, the digital sector, small business and startups to reduce over-reliance on the finance industry. Population growth, if left uncontrolled and unchecked, will have serious consequences on our quality of life. Work permits, which are seasonal and time-limited, are the only solution. Families looking to buy their first home are finding it impossible. Government must support parishes in delivering small-scale, affordable home developments to give islanders hope for a better future. Much sooner these than large-scale developments of concrete and steel. We must reduce the financial burden on middle to low-income families by reducing the size and cost of the public sector. This does not mean reducing services, and simply raising taxes and charges is not the solution. Removal of GST on food and children's clothing would be a step in the right direction. And government must stop wasting your money. £26 million on a new hospital without a spade being put in the ground. £800,000 on an aircraft registry with just one aircraft to show for it. Countless millions spent on UK consultants, with more spend just announced by the new chief executive. Politics in Jersey has become polarised. It is time to regain the middle ground. It is time to have a government that has a social responsibility and is not just some uncaring, soulless corporate entity run by grey-suited accountants whose only concern is balancing the books. It is time to have a government that is committed to protecting and upholding the traditions and customs that make Jersey unique and wonderful. It is time to have a government that listens to all the people, not just big business. It is time for new political leadership. It is time for your voice to be heard. Your vote is your voice. But change will only happen if you do vote. This election offers you a real opportunity for change. To the role of Senator, I bring my work and life experience, my political experience, my strong work ethic and my courage to stand up for what I believe in. Working together, we can make a real positive difference to the lives of every member of our society. I would be honoured to receive your vote. Thank you.
Ian Gorst.
Monsieur le Connétable, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I stood for elected office to make a difference and to provide hope for the future. But this election is about change. We have navigated through some of the most difficult economic and social challenges that we as an island have faced. But over the next 4 years, we face challenges and we'll have to make decisions which will set our course as a community for many, many years to come. We have the uncertainty and also the opportunity of Brexit. We have global and international uncertainty, and we have the uncertainty of the EU. Of course, we've also suffered the effects of the global financial crisis. And as Chief Minister and a father, I understand the effects that that financial crisis has had on family budgets. Jersey is a great place, and we've made significant progress across our community, but I am not satisfied. There is more that we need to see achieved. And during this election, I've been talking about effective economic leadership, I've been talking about improving islanders' lives, and I've been talking about transforming government. And despite the late nights, I've been enjoying this election, listening to islanders, and I understand that there is not a minute to lose on facing these challenges and delivering these changes. And so if you elect me, in addition to my manifesto, I make the following commitments. Within 6 weeks, I will create a new Affordable Housing Commission. They will report on actions to drive down the cost and to increase supply. And they will make recommendations for those changes by the end of this year. I'll also include a review of the 90% current rent policy in that review. Within 3 months, I will bring forward changes to the competition regulator that will drive down the cost of living. Within 6 months, I will bring forward changes to the long-term care scheme to better provide for those with disabilities that require support individually. Within 4 months, I will propose an overhaul of the adult and child mental health services, reducing waiting lists and increasing interventions. And there is more that must be done. I will continue to represent Jersey's economy and way of life on the international stage, because our economic strength has not happened by accident, and I will continue to drive the transformation of government, because when we work together, we can achieve change and a better way. I stand for hope for the future so that you don't need to risk yours. I would appreciate one of your votes on the 16th of May. Thank you very much indeed.
Steve Pallett.
Good evening, fellow Conotab and parishioners. My name is Steve Pallett and I'm the Constable of St Brellards. In this election, I'm standing for Senator because I believe I have the energy, leadership and experience to play an active role in the island's next government. I've raised many issues recently, but tonight I will focus on education and a new Active Jersey strategy that will, over the next 4 years, begin to encourage islanders of all ages into healthier lifestyles. Our education system must evolve and evolve fast if we're going to address the skills gap in our economy and restrict current levels of unsustainable inward migration. The creation of a digital skills academy is essential in a fast-changing and technological world if we are going to ensure we have a competitive, skilled workforce moving forward. Academic results are important, but so is the need for inclusivity within schools. Opportunities need to be provided for all children, irrespective of backgrounds. This is the only way we can address the current inequality, particularly in our town schools. The Jersey Pupil Premium needs further investment, but we also need to look at opportunities out of the classroom. Caring Cooks is an exciting example of how we can teach children the importance of healthy food, from how it is grown to how it is cooked. A recent Freedom of Information request shows the number of juvenile dental extractions has dramatically increased from 94 in 2011 to 382 last year. This, along with increased childhood obesity, is simply not acceptable in an island as well off as ours. All our children should have access to healthy foods, and Caring Cooks are leading the way. Let's be clear, if we don't act now, we face a ticking time bomb in respect of our health service. In 2017, I established Jersey Sport as the independent voice for sport in the island. And as a senator, I want to work with them on a new strategy called Active Jersey. As part of that strategy, I wish to champion the Daily Mile in all schools as a way of improving both the physical and mental well-being of all children, whilst inspiring children to be more confident and ready to learn. We must improve our physical literacy programme within schools, as exercise not only stimulates better concentration, helping children to cope better with school, but has obvious health benefits. This much-needed culture change will lead to a healthier island. Whilst we should celebrate the growing number of senior citizens, we need to ensure that cases of chronic illness such as heart disease and diabetes are reduced if our health service is going to have a sustainable future and the burden on you, the taxpayer, is to be reduced. Active Jersey can and will lead the way on this. Ladies and gentlemen, it's only if we work together that we can have an active future and address issues such as inequality and preventable illnesses. I would ask, please consider me for one of your votes on 16th of May. Thank you.
Christina Moore.
Thank you, Conotab. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for taking the time for being here tonight. I understand that you're here because you care about our island and you want to make an educated decision at the ballot box next week. So let me tell you briefly why I'm here. As a journalist, I learnt a lot about people and their stories. I was privileged to take a behind-the-scenes look at real life. But I wanted to do more than just telling people about those stories. That's why I stood for election in 2011. And this year, one of the 3 pillars of my campaign is our community. Early intervention has been a key part of my work to date, and I think that there is more to do. The sooner a person receives help, the better it is for them. Not because I believe in a nanny state or high levels of spending, but because it makes sense both emotionally and financially. Mental health has been moved up the agenda, but still the waiting times for Talking Therapies programme extends to months. By failing to support people at their start of their journey, problems exacerbate, leading to crisis. Picking up the pieces after a crisis can be expensive in terms of service provision, and also the emotional damage has then been done. This is not just about mental health, though. The same happens to carers and children too. That's why I support the 1001 Days agenda. The development of a child from conception to the age of 2 is critical. This is when the faculties develop, most importantly, the synapses in the brain. These connectors flourish through the stimulation provided by the parent. Without a good bond, those synapses don't grow, so the child doesn't learn as effectively, and when they reach school, that limits their learning abilities and later their potential to contribute to the economy when they grow up. At the heart of my manifesto is the desire to make Jersey the best place to live, to work and to grow up. By balancing the competing priorities of the economy, the environment and the community and working with others effectively, I believe we can find a sustainable future for the island. To achieve good things, we need to be able to pay for them. Today we have an economy that performs well and is competitive. I want to see it strengthen into the future. Boosting productivity is essential to achieve this and to manage population growth. We need every islander to skill up and respond to the rapid change in the world and the needs of local businesses, which is why I support the Digital Skills Academy. Our traditional industries of agriculture, fishing and tourism are an important part of identity. We can also encourage greater diversity by developing a platform for our arts and creative industries. British brands are admired throughout the world and generate billions of pounds in revenue. Jersey has inspired artists for centuries. Let's play to our natural strengths and seek out these opportunities. I want more for Jersey. I hope you do too. Thank you.
Tracy Vulwa.
Good evening, Conatab, ladies and gentlemen. I have served as a States member for 9.5 years as a Deputy of St Saviour and a Deputy of St John. I have carried out numerous roles during this time that have either influenced or had a direct impact on policies and legislation. I have served as an Assistant Minister in both Education and Treasury, as the Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee and President of the Scrutiny Chairman's Committee, and been party to approximately 50 reviews. So why Senator and why now? When the world is changing at such a rapid pace, it concerns me that we are unable to embrace change and be leaders in areas such as education and health. We fail to recognise what education really encompasses. No one identifies with the ideals of a curriculum or government policy, but they do remember the enthusiasm and inspiration of teachers. I would like to place faith and trust back into the teaching profession and not dictate to them what should or should not be the norm for our future generations. Invest in a comprehensive further education campus that supports not just students leaving education, but those who wish to reskill and change career or life opportunities. The ability to provide public services will continue to be under strain without addressing the role of immigration and the population. I support work permits, and although I recognise the uncertainty that outside influences have on our economy, there are real concerns as to how we can afford or even support the demand the island is currently facing. A full and comprehensive review of the workings within the income support system are imperative and need to be considered against the role of personal taxation and the many anomalies which currently reside within the system and cause many issues with people trying to achieve real financial independence. Valuing care is a serious and important area for whoever is successful in this election. Illness does not work to a timetable, respite is few and far between, and much of the care provided is from charities. I feel we need to be seriously concerned about the demands that our health service face, and we continue to face in the coming years. Not only because of an ageing demographic, but there are many people living with conditions that because we do not see them, we believe they do not exist. There is a need to support the vital services of both health and the third sector services, but also to recognise the need to address the viability of the Health Insurance Fund and consider its objectives to meet a primary care model that assists in prevention, diagnosis and support. I am tenacious, hard-working and a team player. I also recognise the importance of being accountable to the electorate in delivering their expectations. The role of a States Member is not easy, but I am a person of integrity and willing to rise to the challenge we all face. Please consider me for one of your votes on the 16th of May. Thank you.
Phil Maguire.
Good evening. Now, back in St Clements, I'd told the story about Paul, who had suffered outrages at the hands of the Social Security Department. Unfortunately, that wasn't the worst thing that happened to him. As I said, he got cancer. He had some operations. He had a kidney and a chunk of liver taken out, various things. Then he was put on drugs to handle a small cancer that was inoperable, and everything seemed stable. Then his blood calcium levels rose, and the consultant told him there was nothing to worry about. In fact, Paul's blood results were better than his, and told him to go away and not worry. His blood calcium levels continued to rise, and the consultants continued to tell him that there was nothing wrong. They put him on a couple of courses to correct it. Nothing worked. His blood calcium levels continued to rise. Eventually, his wife, who was an ex-nurse, knew something was wrong and demanded he see another consultant. The second consultant took one look at him and said that blood calcium levels are normally a very clear indication that the cancer is attacking the bones. Did a check on him that day, telling him not to leave the hospital. When the results came in, they discovered that his body was riddled with cancer. They stuck him on a stretcher, got him out to the mainland, and gave him 5 days of radium treatment to try and correct the problem. Unfortunately, it was too little too late, and the man died a couple of months later. Since then, which was about 15 months ago, his widow's been trying to get a meeting with the specialists. Now, she's not trying to sue anyone. She's not trying to point a finger of blame. All she'd like to know is, how did Paul get so bad while he was under their supervision? Which I think is a reasonable question. The hospital is ignoring her. Interesting enough, one of her friends' husband had exactly the same condition as Paul, but because he didn't have Paul's consultant, he was spotted early, treated, and the guy's been given another 2 years to live. So, would Paul be alive today if he had a different consultant? Well, I can't answer that question because I'm not a doctor, but I know one thing. There's something very wrong with a society where you even have to contemplate that question. So I'd like to leave you with 2 questions, if I may. The first question is, would a shiny new hospital building have changed this result? And the second question is, are the problems that the hospital has and the hospital system have go deeper than just the building? And is the building just a massive, big, expensive distraction away from the real problems that the hospital has and are actually putting people's lives at risk? Thank you.
Gordon Troy.
Good evening, Gruville. I'm Gordon George Troy, a Jerseyman from a business and politically motivated family. My family, the Troys and Shentons, have represented you well for the last 60 years. Please let me represent you as Senator. I was going to stand for election when GST was first introduced. I knew it was a pay cut for Jersey. I knew this tax would hit the most vulnerable in our society, the poor, the pensioner, working families with young children, and small struggling businesses. My aim if elected is to keep GST pegged at 5%, remove it from food and raise tax thresholds so that small income families and pensioners will pay less tax. I'd like to make it clear I am totally against increased taxation. Our pensioners have been overlooked and poorly treated by the Gorse government. We need a livable pension. After paying tax and social security for years, pensioners receive little in return. I will make the livable pension a reality by appointing a commission to look at all aspects from pensioners' payments to health care, from diet and exercise to well-being and community life. I want to be the pensioner's friend and I want to be the pensioner's senator. I'm very concerned at a recent poll commissioned by the JP, which informs us that early data indicates that the first 6 senatorial places will go to previously elected candidates. These estates members, which in conjunction with consultants and the civil service, have mismanaged the economy by overspending on unnecessary capital projects which always run over budget and are seldom completed on time, which is a waste of public money. This is poor management and bad housekeeping. If polls are correct, it means Jersey is voting for more of the same mismanagement. Jersey's not a poor nation. Our government has money to take care of the island's community with good community spending if it chooses. Or it can build another unnecessary shiny new building like police headquarters. Spending must be controlled. My 3-rule formula for capital project spending is this, and this should be the scrutiny rule book. Rule 1, capital projects must be necessary. Rule 2, capital projects must be value for money. Rule 3, capital projects must be on time and on budget. If we make ministers and civil servants suitable for the waste, funds will be available for spending on good community projects like home nursing care or skateboard park. Looking at shiny new police building that does the same as the last one is of no direct benefit to a pensioner that needs a nurse visit at home daily. I appeal to you. You have a new candidate here that wants to improve community life for you. Please vote me for Senator. Thank you.
Sam Mezek.
Monsieur le Connétable, friends, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here this evening. My name is Sam Mezek and I've been the Deputy for St Helier No. 2 District for the last 4 years now. I hope that I've shown in my time in the States that I'm a hard-working member who never shies away from asking tough questions and proposing alternatives when I don't think the government has got it right. I've fought from the backbenchers to improve the lot of low earners and the squeezed middle, and I've opposed every government attempt to roll back our public services and introduce stealth taxes. I've successfully fought to implement my previous manifesto commitments on things like the living wage, equal marriage, and a crackdown on exploitative zero-hours contracts. I'm standing for Senator now because I want to play a positive and constructive role in the next government of Jersey to force to the top of the agenda for the next States Assembly the aim of improving the standard of living for all islanders. I don't want to be someone who shouts from the sidelines. I want to be at the forefront of positive change. And this election on the 16th of May is your opportunity to vote for change in the way that we do politics here in Jersey. Opinion poll after opinion poll shows that the public are not happy with how the States works, and we have some of the lowest voter turnouts in Europe. And most of the people that I speak to feel like the last few years of Jersey politics has been characterised by dysfunctional government, a lot of wasteful spending and an over-reliance on UK consultants because nobody in the States ever seems to be held accountable for anything. But these are issues which feel like they come up at election after election and nothing ever really changes unless things actually get worse. And many of you will have felt like life has actually got more difficult over the last 4 years with the cost of housing going up, wages stagnating, and the strains on our public services. But we've all heard the stories of poverty increasing in Jersey, and that's the worst thing, I think. But these are trends which can't carry on forever. Something does have to give at some point, and I think that the next government must do something to reverse these trends and set the island off in the right direction. I'm standing for election alongside 17 other candidates on a joint manifesto, 33 pages long, with 10 key election pledges which we know are deliverable and which we believe will have a tangible impact on improving life for ordinary islanders. We're not interested in personality politics. We only want to debate the issues and put forward what we hope you'll consider to be sensible solutions to the challenges that Jersey faces. You might not like everything in that manifesto, but I hope that voters will see that there is a better way of doing politics, a way which is much more capable of meeting the aspirations of the people of Jersey and delivering a better government system for all of us, no matter what our political views happen to be. So, if you want change, I hope on the 16th of May you'll consider giving me one of your votes, and I promise you that I will work tirelessly to do everything I can to make this a fairer island for all of us. Thank you very much.
Lyndon Farnham.
Thank you, Connétable. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. in November 2014, I was appointed Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. And since then, I have worked on behalf of islanders to provide a strong, sustainable growth across all sectors of the economy. Maintaining a strong economy is important because it provides new jobs and career opportunities for islanders. And it also creates the wealth required to help those in our community who find themselves in need. It also allows society to develop in a sustainable fashion for the benefit of everyone. I have previously spoken at previous hustings about issues ranging from agriculture to education, to the provision of affordable housing, to improving our sporting infrastructure and the environment. But tonight I would like to talk briefly about another important part of our economy, our financial services sector. Firstly, I believe that we must continue to promote Jersey as a clear leader in international finance. We must also ensure that Jersey Finance, the body charged with promoting Jersey's financial services sector on the international stage, remains adequately resourced. And in the post-Brexit era, we must explore new international markets, many of which present significant opportunities. I would also like to progress or develop our reputation of being an offshore finance centre of excellence to being an offshore business centre of excellence, by broadening even further our offering to the outside world. And we are already seeing a number of international businesses and global organisations from different fields placing their head office activity here in Jersey, not least because of our strong legal, financial and banking infrastructure. Now, it would be remiss of me at this stage not to mention the importance of supporting our tourism industry. Tourism provides the transport links and hospitality infrastructure that is essential to facilitating not just our finance industry, but works for the benefit of all islanders. And we must, of course, continue to meet the highest regulatory standards. And I would like to commend Ian Gorst and Sir Philip Balash, who 2 weeks ago, for the work they have done in defending our autonomy in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, Jersey has been self-governing since 1204. That's about 814 years by my reckoning. And I just wonder how much longer it's going to take for the UK Parliament to realise they cannot impose legislation upon us. We have many challenges ahead, but we have strong foundations, and we need to elect people, capable people, to retain those strong foundations. And I ask you, please, to bear that in mind when you cast your votes on Wednesday, the 16th of May. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sarah Ferguson.
Thank you, Monsieur Le Connétable and parishioners of Grouville. It's been suggested that we must have unlimited immigration to have a sufficiently large working population to support the ageing population. The proposed immigration policy is that immigration should not exceed the average of that since 2001, 700 people a year. At that rate, by 2035, we will require 185 Le Marais blocks and 6 new primary schools. It's a real Ponzi scheme. We need to improve the quality of our water with a combined effort by farmers, utilities, and the community. Farmers have begun to reduce their use of chemicals, and some are conducting experiments to move to regenerative farming. The indications from the results are promising. Reduced costs, reduced need for staff, better quality, earlier crops, and better drainage of fields. Howard Davis Farm was set up as an agricultural, an educational and research station for agriculture. It's time to bring it back into that use to assist research into improving agricultural methods. We have a vineyard, a hemp farm, trial tea plantations, so what else can we grow? And don't talk about the ageing population and its problem. That's rubbish. Who looks after the children in the holidays? The grandparents. Who does much of the volunteering in the island? The ageing population. Who does much of the caring in the island? The ageing population. That is, when they're not climbing Kilimanjaro, hiking through the Pampas, or yomping across Iceland. It is time we stopped calling them a problem and paid more attention to the way they are treated. We talk about improving skills for the 21st century. One determined resident has actually done something about it while the government are still talking. All our primary schools are now kitted out with up-to-the-minute computers, and courses are being adapted for children to self-teach, and they're racing ahead. Catch them early, don't wait till they leave school. There is also time to make a final comparison of the sites for the hospital on a level playing field. This is essential to allay public uncertainty. You will hear many promises during this election. I merely ask you to ask, how much will it cost and where will the money come from? Please read my manifesto for the rest of my ideas, and please consider me for one of your votes next Wednesday. Thank you.
Gerard Boda.
Monsieur Conatable, parishioners of Grouville, good evening. Thank you for coming. I'm Gerard Boda. Now, yesterday we celebrated liberation from the German occupation, and I'm hoping next week we're going to celebrate liberation from our present government. It has been a disaster. Purported to save money and bring better decisions, ministerial government has done the opposite. No one ever seems to be accountable. We have 25 million on a visible hospital. That's enough to build 100 new homes. Or there's the Condor contract, or ministers who say they want to continue driving out waste. Well, we're knee-deep in consultants, some costing over £1,300 a day. And we just employed another 37 top civil servants. My estimate, £4 million a year. 1 in 10 of our working population is now civil servant. If government was working properly, surely we wouldn't need all these people. Then there's ministers' refusal to control population, presumably because businesses want cheap immigration labour. And why does everything we do have to be world-class? It seems to me the only thing that's world-class is the cost. Under the previous committee system, each member served on several committees. The states worked as a team, and there was full accountability. Under the present system, ministers work in silos, under the control of the chief minister, and are totally disconnected from the public, a de facto dictatorship. Now, I could stand here and tell you all about change, how I'm going to help agriculture, rejuvenate tourism, reduce poverty, and a host of other things, but I'm not going to, and it's not in my manifesto, because any candidate who promises you those things is misleading you, because unless they become a minister, none of those pledges can be delivered under the present system. Yes, of course I have views on those subjects, but it would be dishonest of me to pretend I could deliver them, which is why, if elected, I will dedicate myself to changing the system. I have the experience. 40 years running my own business, 13 years as a states member where I served on the Telecom, Housing and Public Services Committee. I later served on the Shadow Scrutiny Panel, the Planning Applications Panel, the Privilege and Procedures Committee, the Public Accounts Committee, the Law Revision Board and various working parties. I was also Vice Chair of the Environment Scrutiny Panel, and I served 13 years on the Skye Youth Club Management Committee. If elected, I promise to drive not only reform of ministerial government, but also address immigration control. We have to reintroduce work permits and a suitable qualification period, and I will seek a ministerial post from which to achieve that. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will consider me for one of your votes on May the 16th.
Stevie Ocean.
Bonsoir, Monsieur Conatable. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I was here 2 years ago, if you remember rightly, in the by-election. I did make certain, not promises, but objectives. Those objectives were completed. I turned around and I told you I was going to get the letters UK removed from Google, which I did after 2 days of arguing with the Americans. At the moment, I'm actually talking to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, re-educating these people that we are not part of the UK. That's here if you want to read it. What else have I done? Well, I made history. 2 years ago, there was confusion on the ballot paper. My name, and it caused a lot of confusion, cost me a lot of votes, there was a lot of sport papers, and consequently on top of that, it cost me the deal with Simon Cowell for the Film Commission and the purpose-built studio. If I would have had what I was entitled to vote-wise, I would have finished in 4th place with 1,140 votes, and that would have actually taken place. The Guernsey Pill Pie film, they would have got some money out of it, not made lame excuses like we can't film in Guernsey because it's too built up, and that was a lame excuse that was made. So what else have I got to tell you? Well, as far as the ballot paper was concerned, I had a government department represent me, and they took it to the law officer, and then consequently I added for credence my equity card. When the law officer saw my equity card, he went white as a sheet. Because I'm not Peter Mac. I have a £10 million personal liability insurance through equity on that card. And when he saw that, he decided this man is not Peter Mac. And so it was granted. And so when you do see the ballot paper, the format of it, I'm very proud. I have changed the whole format of it. There won't be any mistakes. There's one name on there. That's all, right the way through the 17 candidates. And that is important because any confusion that occurs costs us votes, and I don't want to see that. So what else am I going to do? Well, actually, I'm going to play a major role in the States Assembly if elected. And I'll tell you what that major role is. I'm going to stand for Chief Minister. And don't laugh, because it's already out in the media. I've already sorted out my council of ministers, and you're not in it, Dave, sorry. So consequently, that's what's going to happen. As far as pre-vote is concerned, you can still do that at St Paul's between 8:30 in the morning and 5:15 in the evening. If you want to vote for a man of action, and I don't make pledges and promises, vote for Ocean Stevie, and I get things done. Thank you very much.
Gino Rizzoli.
Good evening, Grooville. My name is Gino Rizzoli. I'm a local businessman, resident of St Helier for the last 30 years. I'm married with 2 boys, both studying at the universities of Bristol and Reading. I personally have studied politics, religion, cultures and the sciences for 25 years in relation to human behaviour. It happens to be my interest. We're going through great change and we're not ready. The internet is driving new ideas thousands of times faster than our past. Governments around the world are struggling to come to terms with the speed of that change, and Jersey is no exception. Today, old-style politics is dead. The sooner we grasp this, the better. There is no room for conflict politics, no room for party politics, left or right politics, trying to make the unacceptable acceptable. What unites us in politics and in society are ideas that are perceived as fair, nothing more. Unfair policy would bring you heartache. It is confusing your children and damaging their future. You invite crime and every social evil. Yet fair policies would do the exact opposite. It would repay you many times more than any advantage you think you may have gained by an unfair policy. It creates solutions to every perceived problem. Most of all, happiness. However, people who serve the corporate world would not offer you this choice. They are compromised. They could not deliver the latter even if they want to, because the corporate world would disown them. Corporate representation we do need, but not to lead. Truth is a requirement for every discipline. It's in the law of expansion. Therefore, my first objective in government will be to deliver accountable government. All spending will go online. The detail of the spending is what your government is doing and not what they say they're doing. No inward inspection will resolve this matter. You must be the auditors. It's your money. It's time to put faith. It's time to put your faith in truth. Transparency will lead those professionals with integrity to contribute to the system. At the same time, I would lead or assist our government when making policy. The ills that exist will melt away, whether that's housing, taxation, immigration, or public services. The health and welfare of people on every level is a question of intelligent, fair policy. Open and transparent government automatically delivers the latter. If you could look for a moment through my eyes, you may be able to see a remarkable vision. In 25-year research, I have concluded that the promised land was never a place on the map. I think you know this. It's a state of mind. So welcome to my world, where I will pursue policies and services to that end.
Frank Luce.
Good evening, Grooville. It's good to be back home in God's own parish. My name is Frank Luce. Thank you for attending this hustling tonight, and thank you for ensuring that your name be on the electoral roll, enabling you to vote. Your vote and how you vote has never been so important. We are facing a landmark election. You are going to shape the future of the next government for all Islanders. You, the minority, are going to carry the apathetic majority into better government by your choice of candidates before you tonight. Never before has the gap between the government and the electorate been greater. Islanders are so appalled by the antics of the present sitting states members, they have turned their back on politics and have lost total faith and feel angry that their opinions are completely ignored by elected members once they get into government. Frankly, reading letters to the editor in the Jersey Evening Post should be made compulsory reading for all states members. The appalling successful low voting turnout since the war is testimony to the contempt Islanders have for standing government. The situation can only be reversed by better government made up of members who first and foremost listen to the people and shape their policies to make the government inclusive to the electorate. Then and only then will the general public feel included and touched, and this will result in a greater desire to vote. In the meantime, and for this most important election, your vote will speak for all Islanders. Potential voters see the system of government in Jersey as bad. They want nothing to do with it. That was an opinion held by me. However, the present Assembly have horrified me to such an extent that I am now before you asking for your vote so that I may represent the thoughts, feelings and opinions of Islanders in the Chamber itself. I want to have a strong and significant input in two long outstanding issues: the appalling hospital saga and the independent inquiry into the lifeboat power and personality struggle that present government does not wish to happen. To face in the new Assembly the looming priorities of Brexit and population control, and ensure that agriculture and tourism are better supported to form a holy trinity of business sectors along with the finance industry. I want to work for a listening States Chamber that puts Islanders first. For that I need your confidence, your support and of course your vote. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you, and I hope to meet you and be of service to you before the next momentous 4 years. Make the change happen. It's in your hands. For your ballot paper, my name is Luce, Frank Luce. Thank you very much indeed.
John Lafondre.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Lafondre. I've had the privilege of representing St Lawrence as deputy for the past 12.5 years, but tonight I'm seeking your support to receive an island mandate. Professionally, I'm a chartered accountant with proven political experience. This is useful when dealing with expensive state projects, complex legislation, and large sums of expenditure. But we need sustainable finances, and I'm not ignoring the many other issues we face as well: education, environment, youth, mental health, population, to name a few. But the money has to work first. And my job, if I'm elected, is partially to keep the costs down so that tax rises are kept to the minimum possible. Over the last 5 years, I've been doing more and more on an international basis, working both with the French-speaking parliamentary side and also representing Jersey on the British-Irish Parliamentary Assembly. And as we face external political pressures, including Brexit, it is critical that we promote the island improving understanding of Jersey's constitutional position and the value of our finance industry to the City of London and the UK. We facilitate around £500 billion of investment and are therefore worth around £5 billion a year to the UK Exchequer. I've been an honorary trustee of Levo Housing Trust for over 20 years, giving me first-hand experience of the difficulties faced in providing social housing on this island. And we're presently investing £12 million into redeveloping Troy Court, which represents the heart of why we were formed some 28 years ago. I support the current view of the housing market. I want to see houses and flats that people can treat as a home, and the states to be focusing on first-time buyers. It's got to be about housing that people can live in. As President of Scrutiny and Chairman of the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel, it's been a hard job holding ministers to account over the past 3.5 years. We've issued the first legal summons to get information, changed the law to put witnesses under oath, looked at things like the finance centre, the hospital, Brexit and population policy. Government communication has been poor. We shouldn't have to read the small print to understand the reality of what the Council of Ministers is doing. Consultation needs to be genuine and sincere. And Jersey's a beautiful island, and I love our rural areas. I value the parish community and the many benefits of the parish system. But if we want to retain all that we believe is good about Jersey, we have to recognise the pressures on us, including housing and population. It is important that we have far better controls, with some flexibility for business, but firstly we must have good data on what is happening within our overall population. At this time we need proven political and financial experience, and I hope you will consider I can provide that. I make decisions based on hard evidence. I look at the long term, I'm prepared to listen, I will work hard to get to a solution, and I hope you'll consider me for one of your 8 votes for centre. Thank you very much.
And Lewis, you have never seen a candidate like me before. I am different. I have a different campaign and a different voice, but different is what Jersey needs. My stroke has left me disabled, but it has given me courage, determination and new insight. I will represent those who, like me, don't have a voice. Not just the disabled, but everyone who feels that today's politicians don't speak for them. My focus includes the environment, equality, and community. We need to improve the community of Jersey. We need to improve the environment. It will cost money, but it is an investment for my children and your children. There is no clear voice for the environment in the current states. That has to change. Equality. I bring a new perspective, one formed by both success and hardship. I believe mental health provision must be higher up the political agenda. More understanding and reduced stigma. Where we see inequality and stigma in Jersey, it should be fought. We are improving and have more cosmopolitan living. To create a more equal island. The dangers of having an island of haves and have-nots. I believe that the most marginalized and downtrodden members of our society have something to contribute. From the inmate at Lamoille to the homeless man in the parade, we all have insights and abilities to help make Jersey a better place to live. Everyone has skills and talents. Everyone. We need a system that allows those talents to flourish. The first step is to break down our own stigmas. That is a role of education and defining common goals. Our children and their schooling hold the key. It is then identifying those abilities and channeling them where they are most needed. We need more social enterprises to create businesses and programs that build on our social capital. Like my campaign headquarters, the Beresford Street Kitchen. Communities working together makes us all stronger, and it starts at school. We also need greater recognition of support. The voluntary sector. With more effort from the states, we can better coordinate the work that charities do. I will be the first person with aphasia to stand for the states. I appreciate that makes me different. You may ask, how will I be able to represent you? With modern technology, I can. But for more information, please visit my website, www.andlewis.com. I hope that I will be able to represent all islanders, including those who don't always fit in with the norm. You have 8 votes for senator. Please use one of those on someone who will truly represent change. Thank you.
Before I invite the first 2 questions, can I remind you to tell me whereabouts in the parish you live, and also if you could keep your questions short and to the point. I will now ask questions from the floor. There's a young lady at the back with glasses on. Could you tell us whereabouts in the parish you are?
Yes, I'm from Clos Royal. Many candidates have spoken about providing and building affordable housing. Could you put a rough figure on what you would deem to be an affordable price for, say, a new 3-bedroom family home? Thank you.
Second question, please.
I'm Heather Ewins from the RAF at Grouville. What is the present position of the Armed Forces Covenant, which was mentioned in 2014? Has anything happened?
And to the covenant for the armed forces. The person to answer the question first is Tracy Valois.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Firstly, the affordable housing, reasonable price for a 3-bedroom home. Ideally, well, I remember working in finance, and it was usually roughly around the 5 times the amount of your income over the period, and it was outstripping constantly, but I worked in finance quite a while ago. I'd say for a 3-bedroom home, affordable, probably around about 250 to 300 for a 3-bedroom home. Well, 3 in Jersey. And in terms of the second question, the present position on the Armed Forces Covenant, I'll be completely honest with you, I don't know the answer to that question, so I'm not going to try and give some form of humble answer to you on that. Thank you.
Phil Maguire.
Well, I'm going to admit that I don't know everything, which is a big surprise to anyone who knows me. Affordable houses, no, a price means nothing because, you know, at the moment, a 3-bedroom house, $500,000. If you want to put a garden on it, a bit more. If you want to put anything else on, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. The whole point is, what is an affordable house as far as you're concerned? The whole point about the cost of the housing is, does it match with our earnings? If it doesn't, then it doesn't matter how low or high the house is, we ain't going to be able to afford it. So sticking a price on the house over here is about, or what is an affordable place is just a nonsense, really. We have such a variation of income, such a variation of opportunities. Where do you put a line on it? The other thing I'm going to admit that I don't know anything about is this Armed Forces Covenant. Sounds fascinating, and I'm sorry I missed it.
Gordon Troy.
Affordable homes. In fact, Clos Royal, where you're living now, was built by my family. My father built them. And my family have been building, in the past, many, many affordable homes, including Troy Court, which has now been taken down. It was built in the 50s. And the price now is creeping up. Affordable homes, what they call affordable homes, or starter homes, are now up around about 570,000 in some cases, and even a little bit more than that. But it's government's efforts that make a difference, and there's a lot of talk about affordable housing, but nothing's ever done. And what we have to do is get government to make sure that we allocate the land for appropriate large and small house houses and apartment sites. Because if there's no sites, there's no housing. And government must provide low initial deposit schemes for first-time buyers. And government must provide a mortgage payment scheme to fit the buyer's income, not what the banks say. Government must also offer shared equity schemes, which enables it to be a little bit easier to purchase. And government must introduce a small builders affordable home incentive to motivate the industry. Government must also stop this user pays planning charges from planning applications. Or if user pays is applied, it should be on planning applications that are approved only. The planning department gets more money every time it says no. And there's a million no opportunities in every planning application. So I hope that helps you, but we've got to do something. Thank you. Sorry, I can't answer your question.
Sam Mezek.
You've asked for a rough figure on affordable housing, and I'm going to do that awful politician thing where I avoid that part of the question simply because there is really no such thing as affordable housing, because what is affordable for one type of family circumstance may not be affordable for another family. So you might have a family that's on a combined income of, say, £60,000 a year, but if they've got 3 kids, it might not be affordable as affordable compared to the family that has no children, that can afford to save up more to get that initial deposit. So I think we need to get real, basically, on the housing market in Jersey, because the market is broken. It works completely in the interests of investors and not in the interests of ordinary islanders who want somewhere special to call their own. And I think that's a tragedy. And I look at the situation of young people who have completely lost the aspiration of buying a home because they're desperate to get out of their parents' homes as quickly as possible when they can afford to, only to end up renting, where they're spending a huge proportion of their incomes on rent, over a third of the population in rental stress, and that makes it impossible. I'm sorry to say, though, that the answer to the housing crisis in Jersey is a lot more complicated than simply building more homes. The homes we have in Jersey have got to be used in a much smarter way than they have up until this point. The last census had 3,000 properties empty. You know, if you got a proportion of those properties back on the market, that would do a huge amount for making access to housing better for young people, and I think we've got to be much smarter about this. In terms of the Armed Forces Covenant, like most people on the panel, I don't really know the answer to that. All I can say is that I think that there have been advances in the last few years in terms of how we treat former soldiers in the islands. Work has been done to improve the rights they have at work when they're called to service in the UK. There's been some changes introduced recently about military vehicles in the islands so that they can be used in a more sensible way. And I think some of it may feel quite distant to us because the Armed Forces is a UK institution, but Jersey as a UK Crown dependency, I think actually we should be doing more to play our part and respect the role that the Armed Forces plays in keeping not just Jersey safe, but peacekeeping roles internationally.
Lyndon Farnan.
I think you would be lucky to buy a 3-bedroom house for less than £500,000 in Jersey, but you can pay £1 million for a 2-bedroom apartment, depending on where it is and what's surrounding it. But I think it simply must be a key priority for the next Assembly, a key target, in fact, to increase the supply of homes, at least in line with demand if we're going to make any progress. And of course, a stumbling block for so many young people is the cost, and especially raising the deposit. So in addition to addressing the supply, we must introduce more help to buy schemes, including deposit loans, because, as I said, that's a big stumbling block, and shared equity and equity release opportunities. We can't really do that in Jersey at the moment, so there are opportunities there to release considerable sums of money towards a new housing. And we must also exploit new construction methods aimed at, with new materials, new environmentally friendly materials, aimed at driving down the raw material costs of producing new homes. And the Armed Forces Covenant, are we talking about the care for ex-service men and women particularly? Yes, I'm not totally familiar. I'm vaguely familiar, but not totally familiar with the terms. But I share Sam's views, really, that as a society we must be incredibly aware, and of course yesterday reminded us as our Liberation Day, incredibly aware of the duty and the service the armed forces give to us, and we must recognise that appropriately. But I'm sorry, I don't know the full terms, but I will endeavour to look into them for you. Thank you.
Sarah Ferguson.
Thank you. Affordable housing. Well, as some of the other candidates have said, it obviously depends on your circumstances, your salary, and so on. I'm curious as to why we were specifying a 3-bedroomed house. Yeah, it's, you know, if you're looking for a beginner property, perhaps, you know, one should be looking for a flat. And there I do object to the rabbit hutches that they're busy building in town, and also shoving everybody into town. We have an Island Plan 2020 coming up. I think we need to start looking at and try and identify sites in the parishes for small housing developments. Our real problem is that demand is very much exceeds supply. You know, we need to get the population, the immigration side, organised properly. We had 1,261 houses built over the last 4 years versus 4,200 people coming into the island. And it's also been suggested that we prevent properties being sold to investors from outside the island who just want buy-to-let. Now, the Armed Forces Covenant, I suspect it's with the Home Affairs Department. But basically, one of my constituents recently fell on hard times, and he was asking me about the Armed Forces Covenant, and we were trying to sort something out for him, and we got in the end, we got in touch with the British Legion, and they took it on. But it's, you know, I obviously, the lady here knows a bit more about it than I do. Yes, well, perhaps the Home Affairs Minister knows something.
Gerard Baudin.
Thank you, Mr. Caswell. Affordable housing. Well, in Jersey in the 1960s, you could buy a new three-bedroom house for around about £5,000. Today, that's what, about £500,000 today. So what is a reasonable price? As other candidates have said, it depends on a lot of things, one's income, the cost of living, the location, all sorts of things. But of course, house prices are a function of supply and demand, and as long as we keep letting lots of immigrants into the island, then obviously there's going to be a demand for houses and the prices are going to go up accordingly. There's only one way prices are going to go up. But what concerns me is those who might suggest that prices should come down, because if they do, we're going to have another problem. Hundreds of homeless families suffering from negative equity, as the bank calls them, the mortgage, because the collateral is no longer covering the loan. What can we do about it? Reintroduce a state's loan scheme, as far as I'm concerned. That would be a great help, plus shared equity, which is quite popular in the UK, but doesn't seem to be over here. As regarding the second question, I'm afraid I'm in the same situation as the other candidates. I don't know unfortunately, don't know anything about it.
Stevie Ocean.
Right, affordable housing. Well, first of all, we've got to talk about the other side of things, because I think that there should be states loans and equity held on houses. Also, when you have a house, you've got the expense when things go wrong. And this is a point of fact which is very, very important, because you can't ask a contractor to do a job for you and I'll pay you on a monthly basis. They want the money up front, and if you haven't got it, then the job won't be done. So when you talk about affordable housing, you've got to look at both sides of the fence here. Can you afford a mortgage, and can you afford repairs when they come along? Because repairs come along out of the blue, and if you haven't got the money, you could be in very, very serious trouble. On the point of the armed forces, well, I reiterate what Sam said. And I award the lady 10 points because she's the first one at this hustings this year to actually stump the panel. Thank you very much.
Gino Rizzoli.
It's quite amazing at every election that sitting states members come here offering to do better next time, and to do more, and to see, where the problems is, promises, and being able to get away with promises and promises. I mean, no other sphere in society can you do that. Just sorry, you're gone. But they allow hard-working people who pay their taxes to pay welfare, rent, clothing, televisions, mobile phones, right? Sit back, enjoy those fruits. There's hard-working people that pay their taxes, can't even rent an affordable home. You see where we are. It's totally ridiculous. So it's a question of making things fair. Now, making things fair, share transfer, has already been picked up. Why sell to share transfer of people outside to own property to put pressure on prices upwards? Why do that? Because the right follow the right, and it follows wealth. Look, there's only one big lever you can use to reduce the price of housing and the cost of rents, and the two are linked intrinsically. You've got states houses, that's Andium. You force those rentals to the floor. You certainly don't sell those properties. You force them down to £400, £500, £600 a week, put pressure on the private sector to bring the price of their rents and the price of their properties down. That is the lever you've got. And it's just a political decision. Will we do it?
Frank Luce.
Affordable housing. Well, I'm probably the only person here tonight sitting down looking at you that can really open the can of worms. I've been an estate agent in the island for 43 years, and nothing has changed from when I started in 1975 to today. Unfortunately, the supply always exceeds the demand. Sorry, the demand always exceeds the supply, and that will always be the way it'll be because we live in a small island. Affordable housing, you mean housing that people can afford? Well, basically, in a house, you've got the land area that you put the house on, and then you've got the house on top of the land. Now, if the government, if the states were prepared to have shared equity and purchase the land area that you put the house on, you can halve the price of a house overnight. Because most three-bedroom houses in estates, Lady Farm, Beaufort Village, which have all been built on states loans, they were all cheap at one stage, but now they're at the price of the market. If in fact the states provided the land, you could build a house with now new modern construction. You can build it for probably a couple of £100,000. So you could effectively have three small bedroom houses for £275,000, £300,000, because basically half the cost is sticking the house on the land. So really, let's get the government to do something about providing land, and then builders will put houses on that which people can afford to buy. In the meantime, all they'll be able to afford to do is rent a flat. My mother and father bought a Kenaway Park flat, 2,500 with a garage, 2 bedrooms. I sold it for £200,000 and it's now probably worth £300,000. So really, if you're going to have affordable housing, you've got to control the resale. The people cannot make the profit. It's as simple as that. As far as Harmony Covenant, I know nothing about it whatsoever, and I apologise to you. Thank you very much.
John Lafondre.
Just start with the armed forces. I'm not much different. I don't know very much about the question. We've obviously got to support the members and past members of the armed forces. Very happy to look into it. But if it was a promise, which is what I understood from the aside, if there was a promise made by the states, then we should be sticking to it. That's the short answer. And that's part of the problems of government, is that we keep holding things out, and then actually find a way to wriggle out of it, or don't commit to and don't finish what we promised and what we started. Right, affordable housing. Okay, in the ideal world, yes, it would be 250 to 300,000, something along those lines, but we know that's not the case, and it will also all depend on family circumstances. But then the question, of course, is how and what can we do to address it? There seem to be a whole variety of solutions. It's a package, and how you deal with that in a minute is going to be tricky. Number one is dampen demand. That is about population control. It is about the point that's already been made that in the last 4 years we've let just over 4,000 people into the island when we were planning on 1,300. That's got to have had an impact on the housing market. I, with a housing trust out, and I think housing trusts could play a role in things like shared equity schemes, like we see through the parishes. I think that's a good thing. What I would be interested to do is see a modern day version of the old states loan system, perhaps allowing the loans to be spread over a longer period of time to make them more affordable. And also, actually, I'd be very open to see a test site and construction course. We've just heard, I can remember in 2005, a 2 or 3 bedroom house, the cost was around £120,000 to £140,000. Obviously, that was a good few years ago. Somebody claimed to me very recently, prefab house could be £87,000 for 3 bed. So if you can find the land and just do a test site, let's see if it works. Because then you can then get into shared equity sites, you can then do estates releasing brownfield sites, all those type of things. External buy-to-let. SOJDC apparently are selling one site to 70% is to external buyers. That shouldn't be happening. Thank you.
Mo Scott.
Affordable housing. I was using Tracy's type of calculation and thinking, well, if you really use the multiple with the average income, you're really looking at about 250,000. You can't get houses like that, which means that we have to find ways of making houses affordable for people, for certain parts of the population. And that involves, we've discussed share ownership schemes as a way, but more importantly, it involves finding the land and reserving the land for affordable housing, which is where I've been focusing a lot lately on the island plan and just find it's inadequate in terms of making those areas for affordable housing or making areas for tourist development, and really it needs a lot more work. It's just not adequate at the moment. And in addition to that, there needs to be some more work in terms of restricting profits that can be made on the sale and resale of homes. I plan to look into it because I've even heard suggestion that you don't even need to move into one to get a profit, which seems extraordinary if that's true. It really does need to be sorted out, and if elected, that is one of the areas I wish to focus on. The Armed Forces Covenant, it sounds like it's another of these black holes that I've come across. You know, we've found that with nursery subsidies. We were talking about one involving the Sea Cadets, and I've come across it with the St Brelade's Bay Development Plan. We've got the money, you're just not having it. And that's not acceptable. So again, if elected, I feel we need to make government meaningful again, and I will be committed to do my best to do that.
Thank you. Affordable homes for young families don't exist. You're talking about £450,000 minimum. A young family cannot afford that. So what is the solution? The solution is that we revisit how government can help. Government is a major landowner. We also own a development company. What is the cost of a property? It's land and development costs. If we were to investigate and set up a way of government actually building on land, then shared equity, so there's no profit taken out by a developer, then young families would have the opportunity to go into their first house. But that shared equity scheme would always have to be returned to, if the young family moved on, the next young family. It cannot be used to make profit for anyone, developer or part owner. And I think we really, really need to look at that. With regards to the present position of the Armed Services Covenant, this is a covenant between government and islanders who've served in the armed forces and are returning to the island after having served in the defence of our country. It's actually quite close to my heart. I was After leaving school, I went into the army for a short service commission, so I do understand a little bit about it. The government made a commitment a little while ago that they're going to improve the covenant. They failed to do that, and there have been cases of hardship, of returning soldiers and other servicemen to the island who have not been given the support that this government and this island owes them through our debt of gratitude to them. And go back to saying it, if government makes a commitment, it should honour that commitment. To say we're working on it, we're thinking about it, is not good enough. Thank you.
Ian Gorst.
Thank you. I think, as you've heard this evening, we don't really know what an affordable house is. We've heard different questions about how much it should be. We really have to get to grips with this, and this is why I gave my commitment, because listening to islanders and going around during this campaign I said I was going to set up an affordable housing commission. There's no time to waste, and I'm saying in 6 weeks that's got to be set up. Now, this is not a quango. This is bringing together banks, developers, planning, the lawyers, right through the system, because we've heard some really fantastic ideas tonight about how we can do it. Construction costs can be driven down. There are sites in states' ownership that could be used. You take then out the cost of the land. We've not been able to achieve it before, but I believe that by coming together and doing this, so that we understand fully where the cost drivers are, we drive them down, we can drive that cost down, and we can increase supply. We should be able to do it for around £300,000. It's going to be a challenge, but I believe that actually there's now a lot of goodwill to be able to do that. By the way, Andium are already producing about 200 shared equity homes. The problem is the capital at the top, not the monthly payments. Families have been coming to Andium when they had an open day with the banks, and they said, we can afford the payment, we just can't afford the ultimate capital. So there is action being taken, but it's not enough. We've got to do absolutely more. So the Armed Forces covenant was a tri-party covenant between the Crown, between the Bailiffs' Chamber and between government. Some laws have been changed. We've ratified it. Laws been changed so that people from the Iron Duke can bear arms as they go through St Helier, and that was a fantastic spectacle. Housing regulations have been changed so that returning veterans can do that. The housing and work laws have been changed, and Social Security are changing their provisions as well. Thank you.
Steve Ballot.
We've heard a lot about prices. Certainly I wouldn't want to see an affordable house any more than £300,000, but I think they can be built for a lot less than that. I've already mentioned in previous speeches I've done that we should be looking to build 500 new homes as a matter of urgency. We're only going to do that if we limit the cost of the land. I think we can do that. I think if we work with constables and parishes to identify land, I think we need to put a maximum price on what that land is sold for. I've got no issue with landowners making a profit, but some of the profits that have been made in the past have been quite extortionate. And that's what's driven up the cost of houses for buyers, especially first-time buyers. We've looked at sites in St Peter's, St Martin's. They need to be developed out as soon as possible. Constable St Peter's, I feel sorry for him because really that scheme is perfect for that particular site. And he's running into all sorts of problems, but I'm sure they're solvable. I had a little scheme in Lamoy which provided shared equity homes. That was a godsend for those families. What I do want to see, though, is first-time buyer homes stay first-time buyer homes in perpetuity and not be sold off as profit-making schemes for people. I think it's important that they stay in the first-time buyer market, as I say, in perpetuity. In regards to covenant, I don't know a great deal about it, but it's important that we do support not just our regular armed service, but also our territorial armed servicemen, of which we've got some in the island. It reminded me of a friend of mine that fought in the Falklands War that had particular difficulties, somebody that's very close to my heart. And I know the problems he had when he first came out of the army, actually the Marines. And he did need a lot of support at that time. So it's important that we do support them when they do come out. In saying that, only last week we heard of our own TA soldiers are going to be more closely involved with the regular army. So if they are going to be more regularly involved and probably even more at risk than they are at present, then we do need to provide support for them when they leave the army. It's absolutely vital they get that support when they leave. Thank you.
Christina Moore.
Thank you for the questions. I believe that we do need to build more affordable housing. It's an absolute necessity. It's something I've committed to in my manifesto. I applaud Grooville for having insisted that some first-time buyer homes were provided in the recent development down on the nursery site. It is a shame that only 6 out of the 46 homes are allocated to first-time buyers, but I'm sure your Conatab and your deputy will be committed to building more. It was a great matter of sadness for me that in St Peter we couldn't get agreement on the site following the independent planning inquiry after the parish had got behind plans to build on the Greenfield site in the centre of the village. I understand that it's controversial that we build on green fields, but that site, 10 Verges, equates to 0.0003% of the total area farmed in the island, and it enabled investments in a family of farmers and enabled a future generation to continue farming. So it was a good thing for all people, and I'm sure we will achieve it. That's why I've also committed to every parish having a plan so that they can shape their community and decide as a parish under consultation where we should provide affordable housing. And those homes in St Peter, I think, were due to be around £350,000 to £375,000 each. To move on to the Armed Forces Covenant, it was something that Home Affairs signed alongside the Bailiffs' Chambers and the Crown. As the Chief Minister said, he gave a good overview. We have met as a steering group on regular occasions, social security, health, and we have changed the way we adapt and respond to the needs of returning servicemen in the island. We've identified who they are, and we've set up a champion scheme as well. Every parish has an Armed Forces champion. Some workplaces have them too. And also, with the Royal British Legion, we have worked on improving the post-traumatic stress disorder provisions for islanders and returning servicemen. Thank you.
I'll now invite the next set of 2 questions. The lady in front with the red top.
Sarah Mundy, I live in Gorey. In the absence of a Bank of Jersey, which would have generated monies and many opportunities for the island and local people, and short of going into the EU for the grants and handouts they offer, what other than the finance industry would you do to generate income, opportunities and employment for Jersey?
I saw Mr. Jones on the stage first. If you could just wait for the microphone for people with hearing aids.
Dominic Jones from Queen's Valley. Several of the candidates have mentioned in their manifestos and tonight that they're Jersey-born and are Jerseymen. And I wonder, is it time, with less than 50% of the island currently Jersey-born, to review the definition of what makes a Jerseyman? And I'd like to know, does it make you a better candidate if you were born in Jersey?
And the first person to answer that question was Gerard Baudin.
Thank you. Yes, of course, being born in Jersey makes you a better candidate, because I was born.
Knew it.
Actually, in all seriousness, whether you're Jersey or not, to my mind, is less relevant than your state of mind about Jersey. I know people who've come to Jersey and they've only been from the UK, and they've only been here a few months, and already they have that idea about Jersey that is actually lacking in some people who were born here. As I say, I was actually born here. I've lived practically all my life here. The first question is basically about, as I understood, about diversification of the industry. That is in my manifesto. The states have been talking about diversification of the economy since I can ever since I can remember, and done precisely nothing about it. The plan seems to be to diversify the finance industry. Well, that's not diversification at all. Of course, it's very difficult. I mean, we used to rely on tourism. That has gone down. I suppose, Condor's contract probably hasn't helped that either. But I think that's on the possibly not only stopping visitors coming here, I think it's preventing us leaving as well, but that's beside the point. Tourism, yes, we need to really get behind tourism, but that's a catch-22 situation, because people come here and they say, well, there's nothing to do. Well, the reason why there's nothing to do, I'm talking about evening entertainment and cabarets and that sort of thing. The reason why there's nothing to do is because the hotels have found that there's not that much business, so you can't force a hotel to stay in business. It really needs the states to get behind investment in tourism. Agriculture, I mean, I live on a farm, my family's been in farming for generations. That is just managing, and I can't see it improving greatly and adding to the economy in a much larger degree anytime soon. But tourism, I think, is where we need to go.
Stevie Ocean.
Oh boy, here we go. Right. Well, first of all, diversification as far as farming is concerned. I attended the meeting in town, which was fascinating, about regeneration of the soil. And the farmers are killing us with pesticides and everything else. And this is a fact. What we've got to do is re-educate the farmers into not using pesticides and keeping us all in one piece. I also came up with the idea of a Jersey Royal crisp, and I came up with this idea in the 1990s, and it can actually be done. Now, there's another way of actually diversifying on Jersey Royals. In fact, I came up with the slogan, Jersey Royal potatoes, they're crowned in Jersey Royal crisps. So, and there are many things we can do. I mean, we're talking about the film industry, which I'm involved in as well. And I've got a world stage, you know, because I'm not just known in Jersey, I'm known all over the world. What are you laughing at? Go and have a look. And you'll see for yourself. On Google, when I actually put this on social media about the regeneration, do you know how many results there were? There were 17,400,000. That's quite a number. I mean, it's usually about 2 or 3, 4 million on there anyway about me, but that was the highest it's ever been. On the, I don't think it'll go any higher. On the point of, I'm not a Jerseyman, but I've lived here for 34 years of my life. I actually came here when I was 29. I've been here for 34 years on the 1st of June, and I'm 63. But nobody believes me, and that's not my fault, obviously. But at the end of the day, if you're willing to put everything into where you live and make everybody proud, and I've been involved in a lot of things. The Jersey Rights Association I was the founder of back in the 80s, early 90s. I stopped the old cliche, there's a boat in the morning, get on it, and other things as well. Thank you very much.
Frank Luce. Gino Rizzoli.
There's a misconception here on the bench that I'd like to clear up first of all about opportunities for Jersey. It's been said that you haven't had this economy by some accident. No, I know that. It's you people that supplied this economy, not these people here. Now, you have to remind them who's boss. One or two here understand the legal mind. Yeah, that's what they're paid for. They get paid for that. Okay, when it comes to defending the territory here, you defend it. If not, clear off, right? Someone else will do it. You are the people who drives opportunity. The ideas are you. Don't look here. Now, when it comes to opportunity, I'm afraid you have to go with what is true. Now, the only thing that truth is just, it's inbuilt in expansion. Truth, expansion goes together. You have to make these people go away so you can forge ahead, and they're stopping you. Now, how they're stopping you? You have to unravel their financial accountability. Your taxpayers' money, you want to know where every penny is going, so that tells you what they're doing. Now, if that tells you what they're doing, it's open and accountable. People with real credibility can stand here and help us move together. Every time you dump a policy into the environment which is unfair, it's like letting a hand grenade hand grenade off. Don't you see it? It's not that difficult. Policies that are out there have got to bring people together and not separate people. And as for the second question, well, I told you I've studied this stuff for 25 years, my friend. The second question, I answer it like this. We are at the beginning of human evolution, about the teenage years. Okay.
Frank Luce.
Mr. Jones, you're a fairly well-known person in the Grooville Gorey area, aren't you? Are you proud to be a Jerseyman?
I think it's really the candidates that need to answer the questions.
Okay. Well, it's nice to know that. I couldn't agree with you more. I think anybody that lives in the island and makes the island their home should be allowed to, I believe that they should have British citizenship, but if they make the island their home, they should have every opportunity of being as equal as anybody else. So, no, I don't think you have to be a Jerseyman to be a politician. I think you just have to be a person who loves Jersey and wants to be involved with the fabric of the island. When it comes to diversification, we really haven't got that many opportunities. They do come along as life goes by. Businesses, digital businesses, now suddenly becoming apparent. As time goes by, business opportunities turn up and people follow them and make money. For me, I've been involved in tourism in selling hotels for the last 43 years. It's sad to see a bed base of 29,000 go down now to 10,000. We've lost 19,000 beds in the island. There was a time when this island was absolutely mobbed with people. We've got the opportunity now with danger about all over the world. This is a nice, safe haven for people to come to, and really we should promote big-time tourism. Agriculture, well, that's in the doldrums, and I think that's where it's going to stay. Rather sad to hear the last farmer in St. Juan's, dairy farmer. There's one dairy farmer left in St. Juan's, and he's got 10 cows. So I think that sort of sums up where agriculture is. But tourism should be promoted. Thank you very much indeed.
John Lafondre.
In terms of the economy, I agree. I think the next big string to our bow is the digital side of things. I mean, don't forget, we're a test bed already locally. Its expression is a sandbox sometimes. And the likes of companies like Cadbury and HSBC do test us for certain products before they get rolled out elsewhere, because we're a defined community. And therefore they can measure the success of that. And because we're controlled, because we're bordered by the sea, they know then that if they're testing something and they can judge the impacts. Yes, boost tourism, but don't write off finance either, because I think we can actually diversify within the finance industry. There are still more products and more new markets that we can tackle. Even shellfish, particularly in Grouville. I seem to recall we export around 1,500 tonnes of seed shellfish to Brittany, which then become French eventually as they grow up. So there are elements in there that we can keep using. In terms of Jerseyman, I do like the expression of a modern Jerseyman. I hope I consider myself that way. I do remember being told by a very good friend I wasn't Jersey because I wasn't on I think it was the 1900 census. But on the other hand, she's still a good friend. But I think that was the wrong branch of the family. Somebody here in a meeting we had last year on scrutiny stood up when they asked where they were from. They said they're from Basingstoke. And then said they were from Grouville. But they hugely supported the parish system, the honorary system, and all what I would consider good in the island. So it's about having a good understanding of the island and recognising that even though we're only 9 by 5, we do actually punch above our weight in a whole range of things. Whether it's the UK, the financial contribution we make to the UK of 5 billion a year, or actually something very close to your deputy's heart, the Rwanda Cow Project. That's taken milk yield in Rwanda, I think, from 100 million litres a year up to at least 400 million litres a year. And don't forget, that's the second biggest dairy herd in the world. And don't forget our island heritage as well, which actually in certain instances is world class. Thank you.
Moz Scott.
The island has a history of entrepreneurism, so I don't really have much of a concern that we won't find ideas. And indeed, John's mentioned some. But if you want growth, you need to remove the obstacles. So in my manifesto, I've suggested some of the ways ahead in that, like cutting red tape, reviewing our tax system. You need to reduce the obstacles to startups. The way that the social security is set up doesn't help. And then you just let people go and get the opportunities. Yes, we can diversify finance. I mean, just look at how many insurance companies are in Guernsey, not here for a start, and wonder why we can't get some of that. The Innovation Fund, well, we need to learn from the mistakes of that, but I do believe that the government could facilitate more having private finance help with new ventures. And the creative industries are an important area in which you can grow. I mean, we had Gerard talking about computer games the other day. You know, there are many ways to make money, but we just shouldn't throw obstacles there. Tourism, I am supportive of tourism, but I believe that much of its value is to do with supporting the other industries. It is getting harder and harder for tourism to compete with high-value tourist places when we're not even reserving tourist development sites and just letting hotels go. When it comes to being a Jerseyman or a Jersey woman and where were you been born there, I think it's a question about how do you measure commitment, which is quite difficult because that's going to vary from person to person. And there are pros and cons whether you've been born in the island or not. It may mean you might be objective, it might mean that you indulge in cronyism, it may mean you have knowledge, it might mean you're inspired by Jersey or disaffected. Well, I happen to be inspired and I happen to be committed, so I hope I can have one of your votes on the 16th of May.
Simon Bree.
Thank you. We need to diversify our economy, essentially. We know that the finance industry in Jersey comes under constant threat from external pressures. We're dealing with those at the moment. But we also have to be sensible and say, how can we diversify our economy? There is digital, we've heard that. But I think we also need to look at supporting farming more. Farming produces food. That's its primary function. So, whilst we know that farmers look after the land as well, they are the food producers on this island. So we need to look at ways in which we can support them, move towards regeneration of the soil, look at alternative crops. But government has a role to play in that. Tourism, the digital sector, we need to diversify. Otherwise, we're putting ourselves in a very dangerous position. I hate to steal the phrase, but it's time we started thinking outside of the box, and that box is finance. With regards to just being a Jerseyman or Jersey born make you a better candidate, I'm actually very proud I'm a Jerseyman. There's nothing wrong in that. And I am concerned that what we are losing is that pride in our uniqueness, that pride in our tradition and customs. And we have seen over the years what I've termed the Anglicisation of this island. We need politicians who are prepared to stand up and protect the island against that continuing. We are unique, we are different, and we're not English. And if we forget that point, then we'll forget what Jersey is actually all about. We'll lose the parish system because we don't need it anymore. Why do we need it? Let's have central government. We'll lose the honorary system. That'll go too. So we do need politicians who are prepared to stand up for what they believe in, if what they believe in is Jersey. Thank you.
Ian Gorst.
Thank you. Diversification is something that's been talked about for a long time. One of the reasons that we created Digital Jersey was to add another stream to our economy. And what we're finding is, although there are some small digital businesses setting up and having creative ideas, and they will grow, actually what's happening is digitisation and the digital economy is transforming all of our economy, most primarily, of course, financial services. I am not a person that thinks we need to diversify away from financial services. And I get criticised for that. I think financial services has got a very strong future as the bedrock of our economy, providing we don't take it for granted. And if we're honest with ourselves, when it comes to tourism, we took it for granted. Government didn't support it properly. We didn't think about where it was going strategically into the future. We're not doing that with financial services. We've done 2 strategic reviews, and that's why we're seeing the number of jobs in financial services continuing to grow. It itself is diversifying, but it's completely changing. We've got businesses now in St Helier that are already using AI to change the way that they serve their clients. So it can have a strong future, providing we stand up for it and providing we stick to the very highest international standards. Of course, Digital Jersey, farming, Visit Jersey, they're seeing tourism numbers increase as well, and we need to find ways of supporting farming because it's right. Food is really important. There's also the marine economy that we haven't done enough in exploring and encouraging, and there's more that we need to do there. Are the Jersey-born candidates better? Well, of course they are. But don't forget, you can also vote for one of us also Rans as well. I think the points that have been made is that people come to this island, like me, I came to get married. They come, they make their life, they believe in it, they love it, and they've got its interests at heart for the future. And that's what's important. Thank you.
I think, as our Chief Minister just said, let's not forget the economy we've currently got. We've got 13,000 people working in finance, 40% of our economy, so I think we need to try to protect that first. But you're right, we do need to diversify. I think tourism is one of the areas we can attract more people in. I think there's incredible opportunities there. I think we need to look and invest in some of the buildings that we currently don't use or don't use well enough. Things like Elizabeth Castle, that's fall to wreck and ruin. Fort Region example, that could be regenerated and we could do a lot more with that. I've been part of the group that's been looking at that, and we could really do more with the private sector in terms of regenerating the fort. As a swimmer, I've always looked at St Catherine's as a fantastic opportunity. We're surrounded by water, we've got an incredible environment, and we've got a lot of absolutely incredible talent in water sports in and around the island. I think with sailing, swimming, kayaking, paddleboarding, I think we could attract people from all over Europe if we had a centre based at St Catherine's. This is potentially controversial, but I'm going to say it. It's innovative. We were going to build an arm at St Catherine's 200 years ago. If we were to build that arm, we could have a sheltered harbour for mooring. I think we could get more boats into the island. There's potential opportunities for tidal energy. Cruise liners, I don't think St Catherine's could be the place for it, but there may be an opportunity there. But I think we need to be innovative and be a little bit entrepreneurship, a bit more entrepreneurial in the way we look at opportunities. So I think there's some things there. I think that we could definitely do things with. In terms of does being a Jerseyman make you a better candidate? Probably gives you a better understanding of the island. I think that's really important. Do you need to be a British citizen? I don't believe you do. I think if you've got ties to the island and you've got a strong relationship to the island, then I think you should be allowed to stand for the States. The States needs to be more diverse, and we do need more representation across all of our community as well. Thank you.
Christina Moore.
Thank you, Sarah. The economy is one of the key 3 pillars in my manifesto. I think it's absolutely essential that we develop a really strong economy. We strengthen the economy that we already have because we benefit from being prosperous and relatively diverse in our business activities. But Jersey has always been industrious and forward-thinking in its business. And I think in this time of rapid change, we will see an awful lot of change in business in the next 5 to 10 years, as people have already discussed. So it's absolutely essential that we skill up the members of our community who will be working in that changing environment so that they can adapt as well and create wealth from that. We have also many great opportunities in terms of digital, fintech, and I mentioned in my speech the arts and creative industries. Jersey has inspired artists over many centuries, and I think that we can do much more with our artistic enterprise. We see the Style Awards happening for the second time this year, and I would like to see more people venturing into the fashion world and looking at what we can achieve in terms of retail also. That's, it must be said, a future-proof industry as well when we look to the future. Dominic, in response to your question, I said at the beginning that I think you're all here tonight so that you can see how we all think, what kind of people we are. And I think you're all here because you want to see genuine, compassionate people who are going to listen and take decisions on your behalf, in good times and in bad. And I hope that you will see that the sincerity that I have in choosing my adopted home and doing what I think I can, using my skills to the best of my abilities on your behalf. And I hope that you'll see I want more for Jersey. And that's up to you next week. Thank you.
Tracy Valois.
Okay, thank you for your questions. In terms of finding another industry, during this campaign, I've seen farmers who are diversifying in terms of environmental gains, whether it be soil, whether it be recycling. They're doing a lot of diversifying within their own industry. It's really good, but what's happening is that the government or the states are actually putting barriers up and causing problems. So we need to break those down and work with the industries. For me, a long-term vision for the island is creating a campus that provides requisite skills for all the different industries we have. Hospitality, whether it's marine, whether it's retail or finance or any of those areas, or digital, where it's in one campus and you have that ability to have that cross-fertilisation of skills, so that we allow the Jersey entrepreneurship to actually innovate together and listen and work together to create those new-found ideas for the future. And creative industries, arts and culture, I know for a fact, are hugely under strain at the moment. And we were supposed to create a creative industries strategy many moons ago, but it's all around risk and whether we're willing to take that risk. And I think we are, as long as we've got the right governance that stands around it and we have the right accountability frameworks in place. In terms of being Jersey born, it's not in my manifesto, but I am Jersey born. And I think from my point of view, standing as a candidate, it's about what I've experienced in life, what I've seen, what I hear from other people, what they experience, and what drives me in terms of passion to stand on behalf of the island. So at the end of the day, it's not up to me to decide whether I'm the better candidate, it's up to the electorate next week.
Maguire.
I differ from a number of my colleagues here because I don't think about what we can take into Jersey to build industries. I think of what we can offer the world, and quite frankly, it's huge. And when it comes to knowledge-based industries, Jersey can offer an immense amount. The water around our island does not prevent us from actually involving ourselves in this world. The finance industry is a classic example of how we can develop outside of the island and bring money back in. Now, the two I'd like to talk to you tonight about are, one, our civil service. The problems we face on this island are faced by everybody all over the world. Everyone has the same problems as we do. If we fix them here, we can sell that knowledge on to others. Just imagine it. We can send our people out as consultants somewhere else for a change. What amazing idea that'd be. And the other area, which no one is dealing with over here, which is a massive multi-trillion-dollar industry, is health informatics. How we use data to help ourselves get healthier, how we use that data to make sure that our economy and our island is looking after itself, and how that can be used to look after other people. This is an immense area that no one is touching, and we could just forge ahead with that and forge this as a world product. As far as being a Jerseyman is concerned, my own attitude is that being a Jerseyman doesn't make me a better candidate. Wanting Jersey to have a future makes me a better candidate. Wanting something of the past, the best of the past, to carry on, to influence us and influence the world, as it has done, That's what makes a better candidate.
Gordon Troy.
Yes, being a Jerseyman, of course, it's very, very important. And my family, I'm actually from an immigrant background, you wouldn't think that, but we came from Ireland in 1851 after a really bad spud season. So we came here, and of course, we love it. And Jersey is about what's in your heart. It's about genuine emotion for the place that we all love and the Jersey way of life. And of course, a love for the Jersey spud covered in rich Jersey butter. Very important. To move on to the how do we expand our economy? Well, Jersey's got the best place for the biggest opportunity in the last 50 years. The financial technology industry is going to change the way banking, payment systems and record keeping works all around the world. A new financial market that in the last 5 years has grown from very little to a market cap of $440 billion. We must encourage the best in the industry to invest and work in Jersey's fintech industry. It's the hugest opportunity we've seen for a long, long time. There's going to be a worldwide shortage of fintech staff. A fintech university should be invested in here, which would overcome future skill shortages by training our youth for the industry and retaining our banking labour force, retraining our banking labour force. There is a second industry opportunity in selling our fintech university courses worldwide by webinars and correspondence courses. We must develop this industry quickly, providing a stable business environment for entities to settle with local facilities and, importantly, banking support, which banking does not like the fintech industry. We've got to get government to get the banking involved to make sure that we can bring these people here with financial homes. Thank you.
Sam Mezek.
In terms of generating extra income, there's so much that could be said on this, but page 8 onwards in my manifesto deals with some of this. But basically, I think that the government needs to be not just pro-business in its words, but pro-business in its actions too. We have to have a government that creates an environment where people with talent and aspiration who want to take on that risk and start their own business are more likely to be able to succeed at doing that. And there are things that get in the way for them. The social security system has been mentioned before. That makes it harder to get on your feet because of how much you have to pay. Bearing in mind, a lot of people, when they start a business, actually take a pay cut to be able to do that. So I think we actually should be supporting those people. There's red tape that can be looked at and business legislation, and hopefully e-government will do something to help those businesses too. With automation, that's going to have an impact on making some jobs obsolete, and I think the state should be working with all industries to say, right, how is the nature of work going to change in your industry, and what can we do to provide the training to those people whose jobs might be made obsolete so that they can be directed to other places where they can be productive. In terms of being a Jerseyman, well, I'm born and raised in Jersey. I've got the stamp in my passport, but I don't care what religion you are, I don't care what the colour of your skin is, and I don't care where you were born. If you love this island with all of your heart and you want it to succeed, then you're as Jersey as the rest of us. And I think that we all benefit from the talent and hard work that people from around the world bring with them when they come to Jersey, and that is part of what makes this such a special place. But I go further than some of the other candidates and say that I actually do believe that it's wrong that to stand for the States you have to have a British passport. I think it's unfair and absurd that there are people in our community who moved to Jersey when they were a few months old from places like Madeira, lived and worked here for 40 years, paid their taxes, served in the honorary police, and would have so much to give to our island if they were allowed to stand, but they can't stand. I would support changing that rule because I think the best States Assembly is the one that looks more like the public who we're meant to represent, and I don't think there's any downside to that. Democracy will benefit.
Farnan.
Thank you. We've had some genuinely good speeches from candidates this evening, but I'm going to try and answer your question, which I think was, outside of establishing a Bank of Jersey, how can we generate more income? And I alluded to that in my opening address about moving the finance industry on to become, for Jersey to become more recognised as a business centre. We're starting, that is starting to happen at the moment. But to be honest, there's no way that we can just replace quickly the GDP that the finance industry produces. It's about 70% of everything we earn. So we have to work to protect that and diversify it. Tourism and agriculture, we're not writing them off at all. In fact, we're seeing something of a renaissance in both sectors. Now, tourism, and I remember back in the 1970s, my parents cursing at all the hire cars on the roads. And we can't win. Now we have some of those hotels that went, and actually, one of the big problems we had was not allowing that stock to leave the industry. So a lot of old stock built in the 30s and 40s and 50s stayed in the industry. But now we're seeing rejuvenation. We've got about 3.5 million bed nights to sell a year, and we've got to sell more in the shoulder and winter months to produce more money for less resource. One of the problems with our population is so many people came to work in tourism and agriculture and stayed. And we need to find ways of making it more productive. So I say to the people that visit Jersey, look, aim for 1 million visitors spending 500 million a year, but get me 800,000 visitors spending 500 million a year, and I'd be happier. I know I'm Jersey born because my father keeps reminding me that I was born at the maternity hospital in St Saviour's Road, 1 o'clock on Saturday, the 18th of April. I spoilt his lunch because those were the days when fathers stayed at home and received a phone call. He's got a son, congratulations. But no, I don't see race, colour, creed, religion, gender. I see good people, and good people are welcome to Jersey, as long as they're going to embrace our uniqueness and keep us special. Thank you.
Sarah Ferguson.
Thank you. Yes, it is a difficult time we're living in. It's what they call a disruptive time because some jobs are disappearing. When did you last see a filing clerk? There's self-service in supermarkets, but I think we're going to still need plumbers and electricians. And I'm again government trying to pick industries. Government is not good at that. Government sets the scene. Government lifts red tape, because all the red tape that's being dumped on us, maybe we can get rid of some of after Brexit, all the red tape that gets dumped on us, in fact, reduces productivity. And it sets up cost centres so that income goes down. Tourism actually is a very good industry because it's effectively a cash crop. They spend cash. And the hotels which still exist, I think, are ones which actually ploughed their profits back rather than drain the business. Because a lot of the bed nights that went out were actually guest houses which couldn't be converted into the sort of accommodation that people wanted. With Brexit, we need to make sure we get our fishing rights back properly, because I understand from the fisheries people there are a lot of boats which are coming down and actually taking our fishery, taking our fish effectively. And are you a better candidate for, being a Jerseyman or woman? Well, I'm here because I chose to live here. And a convert is always more enthusiastic. And I think the real question is, ask not what you can do, what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country.
Ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to just past 9:30, which was the target for the end of the meeting. I'm sorry to those who may have questions that they'd like to have asked the candidates, but another set of questions would take us well past 10 o'clock. I'd like to thank the candidates for coming this evening and pretty much sticking to the time. I think probably something to do with the vigour of our Secretary's ringing of the bell, or the second bell. Thank her for being here as well, and also our caretaker, who was here with the mic, but obviously had a lot of work to do setting everything up. Before you go, and I thank you for coming, because you're here, I'm assuming you'll be voting next Wednesday. What I'd ask is you could encourage your neighbours, friends, family, work colleagues who perhaps aren't thinking of voting to come out and do so. And with that, I wish you all a very good night.